AM 1460, the new WXBR. You are listening to the Metro South Morning Show. Peter Zimborn and Mike Pava here with you this morning, and as will be the case all week on the program, we're going to be chatting with all of the council-at-large candidates that agree to come on our program, and the very first that we're speaking with is candidate for council-at-large, Mr. Paul Beckner, who joins us in studio. Paul, good morning. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, and good morning to all listeners, and thank you for listening in, and I imagine your voters as well, so thank you.
Paul, you are a guy who has dabbled in politics here and there over the past decade or so. Why did you initially try a foray into politics in the city of Brockton, and what made you want to run this particular election?
Well, my experience in politics started way back, I would say, about 1980. I started working on a campaign for Senator Edward Kennedy, and I just really I loved the interaction that took place, and attending events, going out and meeting people in Brockton. I was actually going after donations from businesses in the city of Brockton and surrounding towns for the senator way back then. And as time went on, I worked in his campaigns, on and off, because he ran every 6 years and so forth. I think I helped on Michael Creedon's campaign when he ran for state senate. I forget what year that was. I worked for Charlie Logan's campaign when he ran for Council Ward 7 back in the 90s. I was Lisa Grant Coffin's campaign manager when she ran against Dennis DiNapoli in Ward 5. I think it was 99 and 98. So I've had quite a lot of experience behind the scenes. I ran myself the first time, and I think it was 2001. That infamous year of 9/11, and I just got into the race because I had some differences with our ward counselor at the time, and he was being unopposed, and I don't believe anybody should be unopposed. I think it keeps people honest. So I get into the race, and we ran an abbreviated campaign, tempered by 9/11, of course, and it was pretty successful. And so 2 years later, I decided to run a full-fledged campaign in Ward 5, and we came pretty close. We stirred up a lot of action. Some of my positions were somewhat controversial, but as time has gone on, some of the positions that I took have come to be true. The things that I profess came true, and I hate to say it, but it is what it is.
Well, why are you running this particular election?
Well, for the past 10 years, I've been working for a large furniture chain in retail, and I was a manager for down in the South Attleboro store, $11 million store with 30 employees. And I left that position, and I was looking for other things to do, trying to reinvent my career, and so I wanted to stay retired from retail. It's just very time-consuming. It's a 24/7 occupation if you're in the position that I had, and you want to be as successful as you can. And I started reading in the local paper about the Brocktonians for limited taxation. And I thought this was pretty interesting. So I went to a meeting they had at City Hall, a little protest against raising taxes, property taxes again in December. And I get to meet, Dick Sicaro and Ron Matter and the people involved with that movement. And I started doing some homework. And, like everybody else, I was feeling the pinch of the raise in property taxes over the years. But being so engrossed with my business down in South Attleboro, you just go with the flow. Okay, yeah, my mortgage has gone up another $30 a year or $50 or whatever it is. And every year it seemed to be going up and up and up. And then it hit me. It's like, hey, I haven't done anything about this. I've sat back and just taken it like everybody else. Let's speak up a little bit. So I started doing a little speaking, at City Hall and so forth. And one thing snowballed into another. I started getting urged to run from different sources, people I've known for years, giving me calls on the phone. Why don't you think about running for at large? There's going to be at least one open seat. As it turned out, there were two open seats when Todd Petty decided that he was going to retire. And one thing led to another. And, it's turned into this, which has been a wonderful experience, I must say.
Now, you caught a lot of people's attention with your initial remarks in the Council at Large debate during the preliminary election by introducing a new word to the vernacular that I don't think had previously been said during Brockton City Council at Large debates. You said to the voters, "Don't be a Bohican." Tell us what you meant by that, and tell us what a Bohican is.
Well, the word Bohica actually came from our vacations up in Lake George for the past 3 years, myself and my family. And there's a couple of clothing shops up there called a Dilligaff, and they make really nice clothing. And my wife really took a like to the clothing because Dilligaff means, do I look like I give a F, okay? And so, believe it or not, my grandkids have the clothing. It says Dilligaff on them. And so, I mean, but they make nice quality clothing and, for a good price. And they have two big shops right there at Lake George on the main strip. And the owner of the company is named Bohica Bill. That's his nickname. We never gave any thought to what Bohica meant, just Bohica Bill. I'd say, hey, Bill, how you doing? Bohica Bill. We'd say hi to him. And my wife this past year went in to buy some more clothing. And, of course, she saw Bill because he's there all the time. Said, hey, Bohica Bill. Well, I remember you, he says. And so they talk. He says, you know what Bohica means? And my wife says, no, I have no idea. He says, it means bend over, hear it. Comes, you can know the rest.
You're not going to say the word again?
It's kind of tacky, I think.
Bend over, here it comes again.
Okay, bend over, here it comes again.
Just so the people know what it actually means.
That's what it means.
You can say the word again on radio. For the
record.
A
Bohican is somebody who believes in Bohica, which, I liken to our current council, a nice way. I think it was a nice roundabout way of saying something else. But they basically... when you stand up and you vote for tax increases over and over when it's not necessary, number one, and because I've seen the budget, I've spent 3.5 hours with our CFO, and he was nice enough to spend that time with me and open the budget up to me and show me everything. And when you vote to raise taxes on the citizens, and then after that vote on the budget goes through, you then stand up and you vote for pay increases for department heads making $150,000, $160,000 a year. Okay, and then you look at the citizen who's questioning you and look him in the eye and say, "This is the best thing for you." Well, I think that's a pretty good definition of a Bohican. How else?
So what you're telling the people is that don't bend over and simply take this again. Stand up and do something. Correct?
Exactly. In so many words. I mean, it's about time. If we have 44,000 registered voters in the city right now, okay? That's down 20,000 registered voters from 10 years ago when I last ran for office. And, why is that? And why do only 20% of those 44,000 vote? It's because people just, what's the use? I think that's what they think. Why bother? Why bother standing up? Well, you can bother standing up now because you have someone like me who doesn't care if I'm just a one-term counselor. Okay, if people don't like what I'm doing, they don't like the proposals I make, they don't like some of my platforms, which are on paulbeckner.com. Go right on there and take a read for yourself. Then vote me out. I'm not in this to be a lifetime politician. I don't need a pension or anything like that from the city of Brockton. I want to make a difference. Finally, I think we have some candidates in this race, not just myself, that will stand up and say no when you're supposed to say no. I'm not going to stand up and say I blame the mayor for this because I believe that I'm being forced to vote for something that I think is wrong. I mean, come on. How could you say that if you're a counselor? If you think it's wrong, you vote no. I don't care what the rest of the people are doing or what the consensus is, you vote no. And that's what I'm going to do. If I don't think the budget is right for the people and it's including tax increases, I'm voting no. I don't care what everybody else is doing.
And what are some of the things that you would do that you have not seen present counselors do that you think should be done?
Such as?
In regards to anything, particularly the tax increases.
Well, I think one way to push the button at City Hall is if I'm just one voice, okay, then I'm going to need some sort of force behind me to help persuade other councilors to vote against the tax increase. So I've developed a advisory commission. There's 15 members, volunteers already for this commission, should I be elected. They're going to come with me. And we're going to stay in touch via email, phone calls, and meetings once a month. And right now there's 2 members from every ward, and a couple of wards have 3 members. I like to see 3 or 4 members. Why not? Because if some people can't make it to a meeting, then someone else will. And it's community involvement. That's what I want to see more of. Without community involvement, City Hall is going to keep doing the same things over and over and over, which have led to this mess that we're in right now.
We're chatting with Paul Beckner, candidate for Councilor at Large here on the Metro South Morning Show. Paul, you're running under the slogan, Beckner for a Better Brockton. On your view, what can be done to make Brockton better?
Well, like I was just mentioning, community involvement. Making the right decisions, making the tough decisions. When you need to say no, you have to stand up as a councilor and say no. If I could affect change in Brockton by not running for the council, believe me, I would. It's a lot of work. And it's going to be a lot of work if I get elected. But I'm ready for the challenge. I've never been afraid of hard work, and that's how I've been successful in the past. To make Brockton a better city, it's simply going to take more involvement, and you have to take risks. We have to immediately change downtown to a 2-way street. I've been saying that for months. I've thought it for years, but it's never happened. I always thought it was going to happen because this person would say they want to do it. We have to act, not just talk. You have to, and it can be done quickly, in a matter of weeks, I think. Okay, yeah, we don't have the money for the street lights. Well, we solicit the money, get donations from private industry, people who want to see, a downtown with 2-way streets and a 2-way Warren Ave, because that's going to have to go in conjunction. There's wealthy individuals in the city that we can co-name the street after, or at least those 4 city blocks between Belmont Street and Court Street. Name that after the person who wants to put forth a majority of the funds necessary to start this immediately. But you got to start it. I envision having 3 policemen, one at the corner of Court and Main, one at Legion Parkway and Center Street, and another one on Belmont Street in Maine. And that's going to show a police presence with the police cars there, okay? And they can direct traffic till the street lights are all set up and ready. I mean, let's just do it. Let's get things rolling. Let's not just talk about it. If we talk about it, we're wasting more money. Like the desal plant, we're wasting $6.2 million a year. That should already been off the books. We should already be out of that contract. Article 6.4 of that contract explicitly states, okay, and I think Jack Units, when he was on the show, said that the Aquaria hasn't spent a nickel marketing this water. Well, how would he know? Well, he's the former mayor. Of course he'd know, okay? Now, he did say he wasn't sure if that would void the contract, if we could get out of the contract. That would be well, he's a lawyer. He should know. Of course it will. It's part of the contract. They haven't lived up to the obligation to spend $250,000 within the first 3 years of operation marketing that water to other communities or to other businesses that would tap into the water, okay? And if they try to put forth, like the mayor suggested, and I sat down with her for an hour, and we discussed things like this. And she says, well, what's to stop them from just fudging the paperwork and saying that they paid this expert this amount of money and this expert that amount of money and added up to $250,000? Well, why would they commit fraud? It would easily be exposed. You just have an investigator go and talk to these individuals that are putting their expertise and their opinions on the line and their livelihood by saying, oh, I was paid this or that. Okay, well, show me the check. I mean, it'd be easy to expose that fraud. Why would Aquaria put themselves up to fraud like that?
We had Linda Balzotti on the program. We asked her about the Aquaria desal plant, and she said that she cannot get the city out of the agreement as it's more or less ironclad. You seemingly disagree. You outright disagree.
That's baloney. It's baloney. Article 6.4, if you read the contract, says that they are obligated to spend a minimum of $250,000 in the first 3 years of operation. We're now in year 5. Okay, they haven't spent a nickel, according to our former mayor, who I happen to believe. Okay, and I asked Bob Sullivan about this at a fundraiser for Chris McMillan a couple of months ago, and we're sitting across from each other, and Tom Monahan was there, and I said, Bob, if Article 6.4, if they didn't spend that money they're obligated to spend, a minimum of, would that void the contract? He said, absolutely it would. I said, well, how come we're still stuck with this contract? I mean, it's pretty obvious. They haven't put forth any evidence that they spent this, have they? He says, no. He says, they're coming in July, because I've been asking. He said, I've been asking them for this proof for 2 years. They're coming in July with the proof. Well, they didn't come in July with the proof. So why are we dragging our feet? My feeling is we're dragging our feet as a councilor and as the mayor or as a city government as a whole, because just in case that power plant gets shoved down our throats, Okay, we're going to need a water source in order to provide enough to cool those turbines, up to maybe 3 million gallons a day. So I think that makes pretty good sense to drag your feet on the Aquaria deal just in case.
Another hot issue in regards to the city of Brockton as a whole, which is something that you would be dealing with being a councilor at large, is the proposed power plant, which is a hot button issue. What is your feelings on the proposed power plant?
Well, I think it's something. I've done my homework and research on it and talked to a lot of different individuals, pros and cons, done a lot of reading online about gas-fired plants and the dangers of breathing in fumes from natural gas, whether it's your gas stove or whether it's from your gas heater. And to me, it's old technology. I can't see that it's going to be any positive. It's going to have a positive impact on the city whatsoever. And if it affects one life in a negative way, and I'm everything I'm reading, and I'm trying to be, fair on both sides because I want something that's good for the city, but on the other hand, I don't want anything that's going to create worse conditions. And the revenue to be generated is only speculative at best. Nobody's giving you any firm numbers that are documented. This is just speculation, and $1 million here. But is $1 million or $2 million worth one life being affected in a negative way, creating a worse health situation for even one person? I say no. And until I'm sure that there is absolutely no health risk at all associated with this, I can't support it in good conscience.
Once again, we're chatting with City Council at Large candidate Paul Beckner here on AM 1460, the new WXBR. You've run for Ward City Council before. This time you're running for Council at Large. Why did you decide to run for Council at Large as opposed to your home ward, which I believe is Ward 5, if I'm not mistaken?
Well, quite honestly, over the years, I've grown to have a respect for Councilor DiNapoli. I didn't have any issues with the job he'd been doing. I thought he... since the time I ran against him back in the early 2000s, he's really stepped up his game, and he's learned to be an effective counselor. Now, some people might disagree because not everybody agrees, but I didn't have an issue with him. People were urging me to run for at-large. This wasn't my idea because there was an open seat, and they thought that I'd be a good fit for that seat, and then 2 opened up. And trust me, I tried every which way to back out of this. My wife wasn't for it at all. She's been through the rigors of a campaign before and the disappointment that comes if you lose. And so it took quite a bit of pandering or sweet-talking or what have you on my behalf when the time came. But up until I actually submitted my signatures, I was still undecided if I really wanted to go through with this. And finally, I said, let's do it, and because, to me, it's a way for me to give back to Brockton. I'm a Mason, and I've been part of the Brotherhood for 7 years, but that just wasn't enough. And over the last 5 or 6 years when I was down in South Attleboro, I didn't have much time to even be involved with my obligations to the Brotherhood. And so I really wanted to do something worthwhile in this city, and there's no better time than right now. And I know what I can bring to the table, and I know my convictions and my passion to help make things better for the community as a whole. I've lived here all my life, and to see the place degrade to the point it has is very disturbing. And I just wanted to give something back. It's not. I don't need the title to be a counselor. I don't need the title of counselor. I don't need to pad my resume. I'm 55 years old. That's behind me. Like I said, if there was a way for me to affect change without being on the council, then I probably would have taken that route. But there's no better route than to be on the council and to be there every day and in the public eye every day and being able to affect the decisions that are made in our legislature. So.
Another hot-button issue right now is crime and violence in the city. What could you do to curb violence in the city of Brockton?
Well, there's several steps. I've thought, the ideas that have come to me, and most of the ideas that I have to be honest, have been spurred by interaction with citizens. And my brother came up with an idea let's face it, the youth of our city are the future of the city and the future of the state and the future of the country. And his idea is to put a mandatory class into the school curriculum and teaching the kids, the youth, about the devastation of lawlessness and violence and how it affects not only the family of the victim and their friends, but the family of the perpetrator and their friends, and then the community as a whole, and have families come in and talk about it, people that have been affected by lawlessness and violence and have lost loved ones to crime and domestic violence and other things that all go along with that. So I started thinking more along the lines, well, maybe every 2 years we could have that starting in the 5th grade, the 7th, 9th, down the line. And just to keep reinforcing that in the minds of the youth. And maybe that'll help them understand more completely, their actions, because their mind's still growing at that age. And they're starting to formulate their own opinions and whether they want to go this route with these guys who are doing drugs and having a good time and throwing tires down the hill, or go over this route and study and set the stage to be a good citizen. And parents, some people say, well, the parents, their parents are the ones that have to take charge and set the standard for the kids and the example. Well, parents today, and all forgiveness to them, that don't have the time to spend with their kids like they'd want to. They've got to work 2 jobs, sometimes both parents, in order to put food on the table. And I'm sure most families do their best, most mothers and fathers do their best to spend time with their kids. I know in the last 5-6 years, I didn't spend enough time with my own family. And, because, my time was restricted by the time I had to put into that business. And so I think maybe the education is the way to go. But another idea that came my way was a Brockton Police Academy. I've talked to several officers about this, and there are some hurdles we have to get by, because I guess the state has taken control of the academies and have for a while. I don't think it's a law that they have to. I think we could have an academy right here in Brockton, and I think it would serve as a positive reinforcement to the community that we're serious about tackling crime and lawlessness in the city and bringing more police. We're about 100 policemen shy. We need more police. Okay, that's a whole nother thing. But a police academy where we're training not only our own recruits with some of the best officers in the state. I mean, let's face facts. I mean, we're one of the biggest crime-ridden places in the state, and yet we're not as bad as we could be if we didn't have the policemen on the street trained as well as they are. I mean, these guys are doing a lot with a little. And so who would be better to train the officers in Mansfield, the Foxborough, or the Bridgewaters than the policemen right here in the city of Brockton? And that could eventually be a good source of revenue as well. But of course, I mean, just picture 30 recruits jogging down Main Street, jogging up Pleasant Street, training at the fairgrounds. They got the cars out there. I see it as a very positive step that Brockton could take, and it might take a little time to develop, but let's start it. Let's start developing it now.
Paul, you got about 30 seconds. Any final words for our listeners?
Well, is this still on?
Yes.
You still hear me? I can't hear myself. Okay.
Okay.
Let me just end with this quote. We need to act, not just talk. We need to be inventive, not restrictive. We need to be courageous, not hesitant. And we need to be thoughtful and compassionate. That's the Brockton I envision. And together, we can make that happen, and we can get Brockton back to where it once belonged.
Well, thank you very much. That is Council at Large candidate Paul Beckner joining us here on AM 1460, the new WXBR. We're going to step aside for a quick break. Mike Paver brings us a local news update. Stick with us here in the Metro South Morning Show, PM in the AM.